The massive research vessel RSS Explorer hung in orbit around the blue planet like a silver needle against dark velvet. Captain Mike Thomas stood at the bridge's main viewport, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass as he studied the world below. The planet was almost entirely covered in water, with only a few rocky outcrops breaking through the endless ocean. "Captain, the mineral scan results are in," said Tom Wilson, the ship's chief scientist. His excited voice echoed across the quiet bridge. "The ocean floor is rich with rare earth elements. There's enough down there to power Earth's industries for the next 100 years." Mike turned away from the viewport, his eyes bright with interest. "Show me." The main screen lit up with colorful graphs and numbers. Even with his basic scientific knowledge, Mike could tell they had stumbled onto something incredible. After 3 months of exploring this sector of space, they had finally found what Earth desperately needed. "Send the data to Earth Command," Mike ordered, "and contact the Galactic Council. We need to stake our claim before." The communication officer cut him off. "Sir, we're receiving an urgent message from the Council already." A hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. The tall, thin figure of Council member Brightstone materialized. Like most members of his species, he had gray skin and large eyes adapted to his homeworld's dim light. His expression showed clear concern. "Captain Thomas," Brightstone said, his universal translator making his clicks and whistles understandable, "we have detected your presence near planet LC-249. I must warn you, this is a Class 5 hazard world. No colonization or mining operations are permitted." Mike frowned. "With all due respect, Counselor, our scans show no dangerous wildlife or toxic elements. Why is it classified as hazardous?" "Captain, the planet is." Brightstone seemed uncomfortable. "The planet is 94% covered in dihydrogen monoxide." There was a moment of silence on the bridge before Tom started laughing. He quickly covered his mouth, but Mike had to fight back a smile too. "Counselor," Mike said carefully, "you mean water?" "Yes, exactly." Brightstone's large eyes blinked rapidly. "The crushing depths, the constant moisture, the impossible pressure. No species can safely operate in such conditions. We lost 3 survey teams just trying to study it." Mike thought about his childhood, swimming in the Pacific Ocean near his home. He remembered diving for shells with his friends, surfing the waves, and later his time in the Navy working with underwater construction teams. An idea began to form. "Counselor," he said, "humans have been living and working around water for our entire history. We have cities near oceans, underwater research stations, and deep-sea mining operations back on Earth. We can handle this." Brightstone's hologram flickered as he moved closer to his camera. "Impossible. You must be mistaken about the conditions. The pressure at even moderate depths." "Sir," Tom interrupted, pulling up a video on another screen. "This is from Earth's Mariana Trench Research Station. Depth, 8,000 meters." The video showed human divers in specialized suits working around an underwater base. Brightstone made a sound that the translator couldn't process. "I'll have to discuss this with the full council," he said finally. "No action is to be taken until we reach a decision." The hologram disappeared. Mike turned to his crew, who were all trying not to smile. Humans had faced many challenges since joining the Galactic Federation 5 years ago. Most alien species saw them as primitive newcomers, barely out of their stone age compared to civilizations that had been crossing the stars for thousands of years. But now, they had found something they could do better than anyone else. "Send another message to Earth Command," Mike said, turning back to the viewport and the blue world beyond. "Tell them we found not just one planet, but maybe our place in the galaxy." Tom nodded, already typing. Below them, waves bigger than mountains rolled across the alien ocean, beautiful and deadly, but only if you didn't know how to swim. The RSS Explorer's meeting room was crowded with the strangest group of aliens the crew had ever seen. 5 different species had sent representatives to discuss the water planet situation. Captain Mike watched as they all kept nervously glancing at the large window that showed the blue world below. "So you see," said the tall, rocky-skinned ambassador named Groundwalker, "it would be best to leave this planet alone. The risks are too high." Anna Reed, the ship's chief engineer, crossed her arms. She had been fixing underwater equipment since she was 18, and these aliens were telling her it couldn't be done. "Why don't we show you our plans?" she suggested. "We already have experience with this kind of work." The aliens agreed, but Mike noticed how they huddled together as Anna led them through the ship. Their bodies were built for dry, rocky worlds or thin atmospheres. The very idea of deep water seemed to terrify them. They reached the ship's recreation deck, and Anna smiled. She had planned this perfectly. The door opened to reveal the ship's swimming pool. 2 crew members were doing laps, and another was sitting at the edge with their feet in the water. The effect was immediate. All 5 aliens jumped back. The smallest one, a fuzzy creature named Dry Sand, actually climbed up Groundwalker's back in panic. You put water inside your ship." Groundwalker's voice shook. "And you get in it. It's for exercise and fun," Anna explained. "Would you like to see more?" Before they could answer, she walked to the pool's edge. The aliens gasped as she pulled off her shoes and rolled up her pants to dip her feet in the water. "Most of us learned to swim as children," Mike added, enjoying their shocked expressions. "It's as natural as walking for humans." "Natural," squeaked Dry Sand from his high perch. "There's nothing natural about submitting yourself to the crushed death liquid." Anna stood up. "Would you like to see something really interesting? We can show you our underwater repair bay." The aliens followed, though they stayed far from the pool. In the repair bay, Anna put on a simple diving suit. Through a large viewing window, the aliens watched in horror and amazement as she worked underwater for 30 minutes, fixing test equipment. When she came out, dripping but smiling, Groundwalker stepped forward. "This is remarkable," he admitted. "But surely you cannot go deeper than this small tank." "Actually," Mike said, pulling up a display, "we've already designed the mining operation. We'll start at the shallow depth of 100 meters and work our way down to 1,000 meters once we're established." The alien representatives all made different sounds of shock in their native languages. "Impossible," shouted Groundwalker. "The pressure would be easily handled by our reinforced suits," Anna cut in. "We've been handling these pressures for over 100 years." The aliens huddled together, speaking quickly in their own languages. Finally, Groundwalker turned back to Mike. "We must report this to the council," he said. "This is unexpected. We had no idea your species was capable of such things." As they left the ship, Mike heard Dry Sand whisper to another alien, "Did you see how they just put their bodies in the water? Like it was nothing." Later, on the bridge, Anna joined Mike at the viewport. "You think we scared them too much?" she asked. Mike shook his head. "They needed to see it. The galaxy needs to understand that humanity isn't just surviving in space. We have things to teach them too." Below them, the ocean planet turned slowly, its waters hiding treasures that only humans could reach. For the first time since Earth joined the galactic community, they had found something that made other species look at them with respect instead of pity. "Send a message to Earth," Mike told his communications officer. "Tell them to send our best deep-sea teams. I think things are about to get very interesting." The Galactic Council chamber was massive, with seats rising up like a giant stadium. Representatives from 200 species filled the room, all talking at once about the water planet situation. Captain Mike and Engineer Anna stood in the center platform, feeling like they were on trial. Council Leader Bright Stone raised his hands for silence. "We have a problem," he announced. 3 species claim mining rights to planet LC-249. The rock shapers discovered it first. The crystal mines have the most advanced mining technology. And now, the humans say they can actually work there. "We don't just say it," Mike spoke up. "We can prove it. A tall alien made of living crystal stood up. "We have invested billions of credits in underwater mining drones. Our technology is superior to anything humans have." "Then prove it," Anna said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. Even Mike was surprised. "What do you mean?" asked the Crystal Mind representative. Anna stepped forward. "Let's have a competition. First species to set up a working underwater mining operation gets the rights to the planet." The chamber erupted in noise again. Mike leaned close to Anna. "Are you sure about this?" She nodded. "Trust me. They'll spend months trying to build perfect machines. We just need to get people down there and start working." The Rock Shaper representative, a massive being that looked like a walking boulder, laughed. "The humans want to compete with their primitive diving suits against our advanced robotics. Afraid to lose to primitives?" Mike asked with a smile. That caused another uproar. The Crystal Minds and Rock Shapers started arguing about combining their resources. Soon, 5 more species joined their alliance. "Very well," Bright Stone said finally. "We will allow this competition. Each team has 3 Earth months to establish a working mining operation at a minimum depth of 500 meters. Mike felt his smile fade. They had planned to start at 100 meters. 500 was going to be much harder. The Alien Alliance immediately began making plans. Their representatives pulled out advanced holographic displays, showing designs for massive underwater robots and automated mining systems. As Mike and Anna left the chamber, they heard the aliens discussing their plans. "Our new quantum-controlled drones will easily handle the pressure," one said. "And our force field technology will keep the water away from sensitive equipment," added another. Back on their ship, Mike called a meeting with his crew. "We need to call Earth," he said. "Get me Jack Peterson." "The deep-sea mining expert?" Tom asked. "The best there is," Mike confirmed. "And tell him to bring his whole team." The call to Earth was quick. Jack's weathered face appeared on the screen, his gray beard still wet from diving. "Let me get this straight," Jack said after hearing the situation. "They're building fancy robots, and you want us to go down there with regular diving suits." "Advanced suits," Anna corrected. "But yes, we know how to work underwater. They don't." Jack started laughing. "These aliens really think robots can outperform experienced divers. Count me in. I'll bring my best people." Over the next week, ships arrived from all over the galaxy. The Alien Alliance built a massive space station above the planet, filled with laboratories and factories to build their underwater drones. The human ship looked tiny next to it. When Jack's team arrived in their small mining vessel, the aliens actually sent a message asking if they'd brought the wrong ship. "They think we need a bigger ship," Mike told his crew during dinner. "They don't understand that we're not building huge machines. We're just going swimming." Anna watched through the window as another alien construction ship arrived. They were building the most advanced underwater machines ever designed. "You know what the funny part is?" she said. "They're so busy trying to stay dry, they've forgotten the simplest solution." "Which is?" asked Tom. "If you want to work in the water," she smiled, "you have to be willing to get wet." Below them, the ocean planet waited. Soon, they would show the galaxy why humans were the best species for this job. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one, even if it meant doing things the wet way. Jack Peterson stood in the cargo bay of the RSS Explorer, inspecting the diving suits lined up against the wall. Each suit was built for deep-sea work, with reinforced joints and backup oxygen systems. Nothing fancy, just trusted equipment that had kept divers alive for decades. "Your suits look simple," said a Crystal Mind observer who had come to inspect their preparation. The alien's crystalline body sparkled under the bay lights. "Simple works," Jack replied, checking the pressure seals. "Been using this design for 20 years. Never lost a diver." Through the cargo bay window, they could see the Alien Alliance's massive space station. Lights flashed constantly as they tested their underwater drones. Each drone was the size of a small house, covered in shining metal and glowing force fields. Tom Wilson walked in, carrying a tablet. "Jack, you should see this. The aliens just announced their drone features." The list was impressive. Quantum computers, advanced AI, force field generators, matter phase shifters, and equipment that didn't even exist on Earth yet. Jack just laughed. "You know what none of those fancy machines have?" "What?" asked Tom. "Human instinct, experience, the ability to think and adapt underwater." Jack picked up a diving helmet. "All their technology is trying to avoid dealing with water. We're going to work with it." In the next bay, Anna was training new divers from Earth. Most had years of experience, but nobody had ever worked at 500 meters on an alien planet. "Remember," she said to the group, "the pressure at that depth is intense. But we've got something better than alien technology. We've got each other. Always dive in pairs. Always check your buddy's equipment." The crystal-lined observer watched in confusion as the divers practiced emergency procedures. "Why do you not simply program these responses into machines?" "Because every emergency is different," Anna explained. "Sometimes you need a human brain to solve problems." Meanwhile, Captain Mike was in his office, reviewing the competition rules with Brightstone's hologram. "To clarify," Brightstone said, "you intend to send actual humans into the death water." "We call it the ocean," Mike corrected. "And yes, 20 of our best divers." "The Alien Alliance has built 50 automated mining drones. Each cost more than your entire ship." Mike smiled. "Quality over quantity, counselor. One good diver is worth more than 10 machines." Later that day, the crew gathered in the ship's mess hall. The mood was focused but relaxed. Unlike the alien station, where thousands of engineers rushed to perfect their machines, the humans took time to rest and prepare. "Look at this," Tom said, showing everyone his tablet. The alien news networks were calling their mission suicidal. Some were even betting on how long it would take for humans to give up. "Let them talk," Jack said, cleaning his diving mask. "They don't understand what we can do." Anna watched through the window as another alien drone was tested. It was beautiful, covered in lights and science that seemed like magic. But when it hit the water, it moved stiffly, awkwardly, like it was afraid of the ocean around it. "That's their weakness," she said. "They're fighting against the water. We've learned to work with it." The next morning, as Jack's team did their final equipment checks, an alarm sounded from the alien station. One of their test drones had gone too deep and imploded. "See the problem?" Jack asked his divers. "They think technology alone will save them. But down there, in the dark and pressure, you need something more. You need to understand the water, feel it, respect it." He looked at his team, men and women who had spent their lives working under the waves. They weren't wearing shining armor or carrying advanced weapons. Their equipment was simple, tested, reliable. "Tomorrow," he said, "we show them why humans are the best species for this job. Not because we have the best machines, but because we're not afraid to swim." His team finished together. Outside, the ocean planet turned slowly, its vast waters waiting. The aliens might have their machines, but humans had something better: generations of experience and the courage to dive deep. Sometimes the oldest solutions were the best ones, and humans had been swimming since before they could walk. The ocean's surface broke as the first alien mining drone descended into the dark waters. It was beautiful, a massive machine wrapped in glowing force fields, bristling with sensors and equipment. 4 more drones followed it, their lights creating a dazzling display. Above, in the RSS Explorer's launch bay, Jack Peterson watched the alien machines go down. "Our turn," he said, turning to his dive team. "Let's show them how it's done." The human diving operation looked almost primitive in comparison. No fancy lights or force fields. Just 2 transport pods carrying 10 divers each. But unlike the rigid mechanical movement of the alien drones, the human pods moved smoothly through the water. At 200 meters, the first alien drone reported problems. "The pressure is affecting our quantum sensors," the crystal mind engineer announced over the general channel. "Adjusting force fields." Jack's voice came through the comm system to his divers. "Remember your training. This is just like the North Sea rigs, just a bit deeper." At 300 meters, 3 alien drones started having communication issues. Their signals became garbled, affected by the mineral deposits they were trying to detect. The human pods kept ascending steadily. At 400 meters, the first alien drone imploded. The force field meant to protect it from water pressure had failed. The crystal mind engineer's voice was panic-stricken. "How is this possible? Our calculations were perfect." Captain Mike, watching from the bridge, smiled. "They forgot something basic," he told Anna. "Water doesn't care about calculations. It just is." At 500 meters, the target depth, only one alien drone remained operational. Its movements were jerky, its sensors barely functioning under the immense pressure. The human pods reached their target zone and opened. 20 divers swam out, their lights cutting through the darkness. Their movements were smooth, practiced, almost graceful. "This is Dive Team 1. Jack's voice was calm over the radio. "Beginning survey pattern." The aliens watched in disbelief as humans moved freely at a depth that had destroyed their best machines. The divers worked in pairs, setting up simple but effective mining equipment on the ocean floor. "Impossible," the rock shaper representative shouted over the comm. "The pressure at that depth is exactly what we trained for." Anna cut in. She was monitoring the divers' vital signs. All normal. The last alien drone tried to approach the human worksite. Its robotic arms, designed to handle delicate mining operations, could barely move against the water pressure. Meanwhile, Jack's team had already set up their first mining station. It wasn't pretty, basic drilling equipment protected by simple pressure housings, but it worked. "First sample coming up," Jack reported. He held up a container of mineral-rich rock to his helmet camera. Even through the murky water, the valuable crystals sparkled. The crystal mind engineer's voice was quiet. "How are they doing this with such basic equipment?" "Because," Mike replied, "we're not fighting the ocean. We've learned to work with it." On the ocean floor, the divers continued their work. They moved with the water currents instead of against them. When a pressure housing leaked, they fixed it instead of replacing it. When mineral deposits were found in a tight crevice, they simply swam in to get them instead of trying to manipulate robotic arms. After 3 hours, the last alien drone failed. Its force fields collapsed under the constant pressure, and its systems shut down. By then, the humans had set up 3 mining stations and collected more mineral samples than all the alien drones combined. "Mining Operation Control," Jack radioed from the depths. "I think we've made our point." In the Galactic Council observation room, the alien representatives stood in stunned silence. On their screens, human divers continued to work in an environment that had destroyed their most advanced technology. "Perhaps," Brightstone said slowly, "we have underestimated the humans." Below, in the dark waters, Jack watched his team work. They weren't just surviving at this depth, they were thriving. Sometimes the simplest solution was the best one. And humans had been finding simple solutions to working underwater for a very long time. Nobody saw the storm coming. The ocean planet's weather systems were still new to them, and this one formed quickly. Massive waves rolled across the surface, and deep currents stirred up the dark waters below. "All teams, surface immediately," Captain Mike ordered, watching the weather readings get worse by the minute. "Storm warning. I repeat, all teams surface now." The Alien Alliance's backup drones, which had just been launched, immediately started retreating. Their magnetic tethers tangled in the strong currents, making them crash into each other. But down at 500 meters, Jack's team had a problem. "Captain," Jack's voice crackled through the radio, fighting static from the storm. "We've got 2 alien drones trapped down here. Their power's failing. If those force fields go out at this depth, leave them, the crystal mind engineer ordered over the common channel. They're just machines. We can build more. Those machines cost billions, added the rock shaper representative. But they're not worth risking lives over. Jack looked at his dive team. They had practiced rescue operations dozens of times, but never with alien equipment, never in these conditions. The storm was making the currents stronger every minute. We're getting those drones, he decided. Team 2 and 3, start surfacing. Team 1, with me. Jack, Anna's worried voice came through. The current's getting stronger. You've got maybe 10 minutes before it's too dangerous to stay down there. The storm grew worse above. Waves crashed against the Explorer's hull, and the alien station's sensors were going crazy trying to track their lost drones. Below, Jack and 4 other divers fought against the current. They reached the first drone, a massive cylinder of metal and crystal, its force fields flickering as power failed. Basic physics, Jack told his team over their local comm. Doesn't matter if it's alien tech or a shipping container, water acts the same way. They worked quickly, attaching their emergency lift bags to the drone's frame. As the bags inflated with air from their spare tanks, the drone slowly started to rise. First one's coming up, Jack reported, moving to the second. The second drone was in worse shape. Its force fields were almost gone, and the pressure was starting to crush its outer shell. 5 minutes, Anna warned. Jack, you need to get out of there. The drone's shell cracked. Water sprayed through the gap, and warning lights flashed all over it. Jack knew what would happen next. At this depth, an implosion would be deadly. Everyone back, he ordered his team. But instead of retreating, he swam forward alone. Years of experience took over. He'd seen pressure damage before. The trick wasn't to fight it, but to guide it. He attached his last lift bag, then used the water current itself to spin the drone, pointing the crack upward. Come on, he muttered, working with the water instead of against it. Work with me here. The lift bag inflated. The drone slowly started to rise, its damaged side up, using the water pressure that had almost destroyed it to hold its shape together. Both drones secured, Jack reported. Teams surfacing now. It took 15 tense minutes for everyone to get back to the ship. The storm raged around them, but the human diving teams moved with the waves, letting the ocean guide them up. In the Explorer's cargo bay, aliens and humans stood together, watching their crews return. When Jack's team finally emerged from the water, even the crystal mind engineer was speechless. The saved drones, despite some damage, were mostly intact, along with all their valuable data and equipment. Why? Asked the rock shaper representative. Why risk your lives for our machines? Jack took off his diving helmet, shaking water from his gray beard. Because that's what we do. In the ocean, you look out for everyone, even if they're not human. Later, in the ship's meeting room, Captain Mike received a message from the Galactic Council. But before he could read it, Jack spoke up. Doesn't matter what they say, he said, still drying off. Today we proved something better than who owns the mining rights. What's that? Asked Anna. We proved that humans don't just work in the water. Jack smiled. We belong there. And sometimes that means helping others learn to belong there too. Outside, the storm began to calm. The ocean planet turned slowly below them, its waters no longer seeming so alien or frightening to those watching from above. 1 month after the storm, the RSS Explorer's crew stood in the Galactic Council chamber again. This time, though, they weren't in the center platform. They were honored guests in the front row. Council leader Brightstone addressed the packed chamber. Today, we recognize a turning point in galactic cooperation. The events at planet LC-249 have taught us all a valuable lesson. Captain Mike sat with his crew, watching as holograms played above the chamber floor. They showed human divers working underwater, clips from their mining operation, and most importantly, the rescue during the storm. The human achievement is not just their success in establishing mining operations, Brightstone continued. It is their mastery of an environment most species consider impossible to work in. The crystal-mind engineer stepped forward. Our allies and I wish to formally withdraw our claim to the water planet. Moreover, we propose that humans be granted priority rights to all similar water-covered worlds in the galaxy. A murmur of agreement spread through the chamber. Jack leaned over to Anna and whispered, "Did they just give us all the water planets?" "Not just that." Anna smiled. "Watch." The Rock Shaper representative spoke next. "We also propose a new initiative. Our species request human instruction in underwater operations. We wish to learn from their expertise." Mike couldn't help but grin. Just 6 months ago, these same species had called humans primitive. Now they wanted to learn from them. Brightstone raised his hands for quiet. The Council recognizes humans as the galaxy's experts in aquatic environments. All water planets similar to LC-249 will be under their jurisdiction. Furthermore, we are establishing the Interspecies Underwater Training Program to be led by human instructors. As if on cue, the chamber's main screen lit up. It showed a new facility being built on Earth, an underwater training center designed to help other species overcome their fear of water. "The first class starts next week," Tom told his crewmates. 20 alien students ready to learn basic swimming. Jack laughed. "Never thought I'd be teaching rock shapers how to doggy paddle." After the ceremony, in a quiet moment on the observation deck, Mike stood with his crew watching ships come and go from Earth. Among them were vessels from dozens of species, all coming to learn what humans had known since they first looked at the ocean. That water wasn't something to fear, but to understand. "You know what the best part is?" Anna said, looking at the latest reports. 3 species have already started building their own diving suits. They're actually getting in the water themselves instead of just building machines to stay dry. "Progress," Mike nodded. "Though I heard the first swimming class was interesting." "Oh yeah," Jack grinned. "Took 2 hours just to convince them to put their feet in. But they're learning." That crystal mind student actually floated yesterday. A small alien child from the rock shaper species approached them, clutching what looked like a human child's swim goggles. "Is it true?" the child asked in translated speech. "That human children play in water?" Mike knelt down to the child's level. "More than play. We swim, dive, explore. Would you like to learn?" The child's crystalline eyes widened. "Can I really?" "Of course," Mike smiled. "That's what we do now. We help others learn not to fear the water." Later, as the Explorer prepared for its next mission, Mike looked at his crew. They had come looking for mining rights to one planet. Instead, they had gained something far more valuable: a special place in the galactic community. "New mission orders, Captain," Tom reported. 3 water planets discovered in Sector 7. All need survey teams. "And," Mike prompted, knowing there was more, "and 20 different species requesting to send trainees with us. They want to learn on the job." Mike looked out at the stars, thinking of all the water worlds waiting out there. Humanity had found its niche in the galaxy, not through advanced technology or military might, but through their simple, ancient relationship with water. "Tell them yes," he said. "After all, the ocean is big enough for everyone, as long as they're willing to learn how to swim." Below them, Earth's oceans sparkled in the sunlight, a blue jewel in space, reminding everyone who saw it that sometimes the greatest strength comes from the simplest things, like not being afraid to get wet.